Good day. Welcome to SOW 301, Study Session 3. Non-verbal communication. Introduction. In this study session, we will examine the concept of non-verbal communication, visual and media forms of non-verbal communication, categories of non-verbal communication, functions of non-verbal communication, and significance of interaction in problem solving. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this study session, you should be able to 1. Explain the concept of nonverbal communication. 2. Enumerate the various categories of nonverbal communication. 3. Highlight the 3 possible ways in which we can ascribe different meanings to nonverbal codes. 4. List the functions of nonverbal communication. 5. Explain the significance of interaction in problem solving. Concept of nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication is essentially an inseparable aspect of communication. The concept of nonverbal communication denotes that which is non-linguistic. Plessy, 1993. Specifically, nonverbal communication refers to body language and audiovisual codes used in communication. The fact remains that even if we stop talking, says Goffman, 1963, we cannot stop communicating through bodily idiom. While it has been estimated that 65% of the social meaning in interpersonal face-to-face communication is conveyed non-verbally. Schramm and Potter, 1982. In studying nonverbal communication, such investigations could include an analysis of a variety of visual forms and media, from paintings, sculpture, monuments, architecture, crafts, illustrations, photographs, graphics, industrial designs, cartoons, layout of newspapers and magazines, billboards, labels of packages, photographs, television images and films, to computer graphics, as well as paralanguage codes, voice intonations, sound effects, and music. Categories of nonverbal communication. Burgoon and Sain, 1978, identified the following 6 distinguished codes of nonverbal behavior. Kinetics refers to and deals with communicating by means of movements of our hands, arms, feet, legs, face, eyes, and or the posture of movement of the body as a whole. 1. Proxemics. This is concerned with the way in which we use space as part of our communication behavior. 4 spatial zones or distances can be distinguished: intimate, personal, social, and public. All, 1966. 2. Chronomics. This is concerned with our use of time, such as planning the future according to pre-scheduled appointments. 3. Paralanguage deals with prosodic features of speech communication, such as the quality or tone of voice, hesitations, tempo or rate, volume and pitch. 4. Haptic refers to our sense and use of touch when communicating. 5. Artifacts refer to and include fixed features such as static architectural structures and semi-fixed objects such as furniture and the clothing we wear. 3. Ascribing meanings to nonverbal communication. Ruley, 1982, identified 3 possible ways in which we can ascribe different meanings to nonverbal codes. 1. Random nonverbal communication means that which does not have or does not convey any particular meaning, such as the physical contact that occurs between a doctor and a patient. 2. Idiosyncratic nonverbal communication means that it is unique to a specific individual, such as the habit someone has of scratching one's head when irritable, and the meaning conveyed is known only to those who are aware of this habit. They are often performed unintentionally. 3. Culture-specific non-verbal communication conveys shared meanings when a group of people ascribe the same meaning to the codes used. Kneeling or prostrating as forms of greeting are examples of non-verbal signs which are culture-specific. If we are not aware of the shared meanings represented by the proxemics and haptics habitually used in another culture, we could easily misinterpret another person's behavior. 4. Functions and uses of non-verbal communication. Non-verbal codes can accentuate the message being spoken. Non-verbal codes can be used to complement verbal communication. They can be used to contradict or regulate verbal message. Non-verbal codes can function as a substitute in the absence of speech. Communication for helping cannot be so limited that only immediate solutions for immediate problems are sought. Instead, basic to successful problem solving is communicating that is clear and complete. 5. Communication concept of problem solving. Effective communication with others is probably the most valuable experience in every person's life. Indeed, it is communication that makes us people. How we communicate, how we learn to communicate, when we communicate, and with whom will significantly influence our ability to derive satisfaction from daily living and to solve the problems that are inevitable part of living. Communication that is clear and comprehensive is fundamental to effective problem solving. Without good communication, problems cannot be fully understood or needs expressed so that appropriate solutions can be thought. A limited understanding of what is really helpful to people and a fragmented, partial delivery of human services is obviously of little usefulness. Instead, professional helping must occur in a problem-solving process in which a person can communicate fully about his needs and the service provider can communicate adequately about our capacity to provide for those needs. Both partners in problem solving, the person in need of help and the person providing service, need to listen, speak clearly. Though this may sound self-evident, it bears further consideration. A person is not well served if his needs and the ramifications of his problems are not communicated well. For example, a person who is ill might be sent to a doctor for a quick checkup without exploring of the environmental or stress factors that might be contributing to his illness. Or a child who can't read may be penalized for poor classroom performance without the benefit of necessary audiometric testing. Or a family in trouble might be advised to place its children in foster care without sufficient consideration of the probable negative impact of this dissolution of the family. These two must be able to speak the same language so that they can share ideas and explore problem-solving alternatives and the impact of those alternatives in an atmosphere of open understanding and trust. Learning doesn't happen without communication, and therefore neither can optimal problem solving. Interaction is also essential to problem solving. While it is sometimes true that a problem can be solved without much or any interaction, by simply reading directions or following instructions, more often problems that can't be handled alone require interaction of some dimension and intensity with another individual in order for a satisfactory solution to be reached. Because very often the helping is in the doing. Interaction adds significantly to the success of problem solving. For example, getting a physical examination is more helpful to solving a medical problem than reading a medical text. Likewise, it is more helpful to discuss career options with a guidance counselor than to simply register with an employment agency. It is also certainly more helpful to share marital conflicts with a therapist than to rely on a lonely hearts column to solve the marriage problems satisfactorily. Helping requires assertive action on the part of each person involved in the problem-solving process. Each one will be required to make a contribution of action in order for the problem-solving goals to be achieved. It is not nearly enough to ponder about the problem and its causes or effects. Study session summary. In this study session summary, you learned that if we decide to stop the communication process by not talking, we cannot stop communicating through the other forms of non-verbal communication. We also discussed how resolving matters require that people themselves are set into motion to bring problem-solving change. Toward that end, it becomes imperative that the helper be skilled in guiding or encouraging appropriate courses of action for the individual needing his assistance. End of study session 3. Thank you for listening.